don't stockpile here, particularly for things that nobody even thought were possible, like the COVID-19 corona Wuhan virus. Nobody ever heard of it. Nobody knew anything about it. We don't stockpile. We don't have ventilators in big warehouses or respirators or face masks. We don't have them. Maybe we should. We don't. No state has them except, I should say, no country has them except South Korea, because they had a pandemic there. And then they had to get all this stuff, and then they just kept it. Now, Donald Trump is frustrated because he knows all this. And he knows he's being blamed by the media and some individual governors because they don't have respirators stockpiled someplace. Here's Mr. Trump.
It's very understandable that officials would seek to get the most they can get for their communities. But the fears of the shortages have led to inflated requests. We have some states and areas where they're just asking for far more. I mean, look, we had one state asking for 40,000 ventilators. 40,000. Think of it, 40,000. It's not possible. They won't need that many, and now they're admitting they don't need that many, but we're getting as many as we can to them.
Okay, so if you're a governor of a state, you want as much stuff as you can get, even if you don't use it, right? So you can tell your people, we have the stuff. We all get it. I think all of us, even if you don't like Trump or you don't like Cuomo, people operate out of self-interest. Now, and I used this soundbite last week. I'm going to use it again because it impressed me so much. Gavin Newsom is as far left as you can get. You just can't get any further left than Mr. Newsom, the governor of California. All right, he makes Jerry Brown look like Mike Pence. That's how far left he is. But in this case, he's being honest about President Trump. Roll it.
But let me just be candid with you. I'd be lying to you to say that he hasn't been responsive to our needs. He has. And so as a question, as a sort of an offer of objectivity, I have to acknowledge that publicly. And the fact is, every time I've called the president, he's quickly gotten on the line.
And that Tapper, that despicable, I'm not going to go any further than that, he is despicable. He's tried to imply that the only reason that Newsom says that is because he wants a response, a quick response in the federal government. So he's pandering. Okay, so President Trump has now reached an interesting point in the pandemic. In my opinion, as an American, not as a journalist, he's on TV too much. I cut those things down. He gets big numbers with him. Ratings are good. People want to hear about him and his guys saying about what's happening. I don't think it's helping him, though, in the credibility sense. It's too much, too long, too much stuff. You talk that long, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to create issues that aren't there. I'd like a more precise presentation from the president and his crew. Maybe 7 questions, a day. I don't think this is doing President Trump any good. Now, his supporters like it. They're with him. They're going to stay with him. Needs more to win the re-election. But again, I will cede that it doesn't really matter in the long run. If he gets the virus under control, president will be reelected. If he does not, he will likely lose. But to who? You get a big advantage. Donald Trump has a big advantage because Joe Biden is not a strong candidate. Now, Cuomo's hanging around. I told you all about that. And I know that Trump supporters will go, oh, people will understand. No, they won't. September rolls around. Kids can't go to school. People are out of work. The virus is still spreading somewhere. No. They'll say, well, we'll give somebody else a chance. That's what always happens throughout history. Listen to me. But if the president can get it under control by summer, odds are he will win. 1 in 5, 20% of the New York Police Department called in sick yesterday. Disaster. 20%, and they are testing almost everybody now, calls in sick, and there are a lot of them that have the virus. A lot of them. 2,000 NYPDs, there are 44,000, have the virus. 293 civilian members working in the book. Look, they have to deal with the public in New York City, which is the worst place in the country for the virus. This is an unbelievable story. There's an outfit called ProPublica. I think it's out of Boston. Very far left journalistic outfit. They investigated New York City, saying that they didn't have enough ventilators. And they found out that 5 years ago, Mayor de Blasio sold off the stockpiled ventilators. Sold them. And he sold off masks and didn't buy as many as he could have. Now, you want to see the stats? ProPublica has the stats. But here's the story. Cuomo, the governor of New York, and de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, screaming, ventilators, ventilators, Trump's fault, where are the ventilators? They sold them. Now, Cuomo had to know that. Had to know it. Okay? But today, in Cuomo's hourly update, not one journalist asked him about it. Not one. So what do you think, Andrew? The mayor who's complaining is having a ventilator sold them. Unbelievable. In the United States, more than 400,000 people have been tested for the virus. Far and away, more than any other place on earth. So when Trump talks about that, that's what he's referring to, because I had a lot of questions about it. The far left does not want any of this out. They want to tell you that it's the Black Plague, that it's doom, and Trump is the reason why. Okay? That's what they want you to believe. Now, you don't, because you have your own private news agency. But most Americans have no blanking clue what's going on, and they hear things like this. Roll the tape.
The consequences were laid out for him vividly by people like Peter Navarro and others, and yet the reaction was incompetent and inadequate. And I don't think it's actually an overstatement to say that Donald Trump there are tens of thousands of people who will die in the country, or some of them have already died, more are still going to die because of Donald Trump's incompetence and lack of leadership.
It's just a lie. As we pointed out, there were 3 debates between January 1st and February 27th. 3 Democratic debates. Not one candidate said a word. Not one moderator brought it up. It's astounding. Yet that dishonest individual, all right, intellectually dishonest individual, gets on and spouts that crap on NBC News. Because NBC is part of the cabal that thinks the virus is not as bad as Trump. That's the calculation. Trump's worse than the virus. Re-electing Trump is worse than a pandemic. So we can say anything and distort anything so the president will not be reelected. That is what's happening. The wall of doom. And as I said, I'll write a column about it. Now, only a few minutes after I said the pre-existing conditions are killing most people in America, the French guy in charge of the pandemic, let me get his name here, he makes a public statement. Jean-François Delfray. Jean-François Delfray. How about that, huh? Accent? All right, so he comes out and he says, hey, the reason that people in America are dying, France has many, many more people dying than we do. In fact, the death rate in France is 10%. The death rate here is 3%. So more people, percentage-wise, die in France than here. But he says that obesity is one of the reasons that people are dying. And the quote is, that is why we're worried about our friends in America, where the problem of obesity is well known and where they will probably have the most problems because of obesity. All right, I mean, we eat too much garbage. There's no doubt about it. I did have a radio commentary today. So one of the things about being sequestered at home is that people are eating bad stuff. I'm guilty of that. I had some stuff I never would have eaten. I don't do it anymore. I said, I'm going to keep my discipline. But we eat bad stuff in America. And we have far too many people who put themselves and others at risk because they are so heavy. Okay. But this is what I want to tell you, that this is all part of this pandemic. It's all part of it. And all the facts should be out there so you can evaluate the big picture.